dealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun.
From the past.
I am a real American.
To the present. And the future.
I send it you to deletion!
You are listening to Penn State's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus, Ryan Simpson, and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm Jason Marcus. Joined beside me is Matt Freiler. Fortunately, Ryan Simpson could not be here today. He might show up at the little bit at the end here, but for right now, it is just me and Matt. We are excited to be back with you guys. It's been a little bit since we've been here. A lot has happened in the world of professional wrestling since we last joined you after SummerSlam. Matt, how have you been, and what have you thought of the state of professional wrestling in the past couple weeks?
Yeah, it's been about a month since we did our last show. We had right after SummerSlam, I believe, was the last show that we did. So yeah, obviously a lot has happened. The last time we were with you, we were kind of trying to figure out the Brock Lesnar situation, and now we're back and we see that he comes back at Hell in a Cell. So I think after SummerSlam, not a lot of people would have expected that, but yeah, I mean, normally this time of the year is kind of slow for WWE because of football season, naturally, and, you know, some other things that kind of post-SummerSlam hangover because you don't really get another massive pay-per-view until Survivor Series. So the fall kind of slows down, but WWE is doing everything that they can to fight against that with things like Super Showdown and things like bringing legends back like The Undertaker and HBK and things like that. So yeah, I was impressed with the way that WWE was able to kind of fight against that. Oh, you know, we slowed down in the fall. I like kind of what they're doing with this Super Showdown thing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're really marketing these two international shows. What I believe it's called, like Crowne Jewell in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
And then the Super Showdown in Australia. There's a lot of WWE pay-per-views / big events coming up. I believe there's actually 4 in the month of November alone, and that's not even including Evolution that's at the last week of October. So a lot of professional wrestling coming in the next couple months. A lot of big angles. I think the biggest one that we should probably start with is the story with the Universal Championship. Of course, at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns was able to defeat Brock Lesnar clean to win the Universal Championship. It was then announced that Braun Strowman, the Monster in the Bank, was going to cash in his briefcase at this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So it was Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Braun Strowman inside Hell in a Cell. And of course, we got the swerve ending with Brock Lesnar returning from SummerSlam, or since we had last seen him at SummerSlam, and essentially costing Strowman the match. So Roman officially retains the Universal Championship. Now we set up this big triple threat match at the big Saudi Arabia show in November. Matt, what has been your take on this whole confusing situation between these three guys?
Well, I think the most confusing part is the way Brock Lesnar was being used. He only really was ever booked to show up at really large shows like the Big Four.
Right.
So him showing up at Hell in a Cell kind of threw everybody off because it's like Hell in a Cell, you know, it is a big pay-per-view in itself, but it's not the Big Four, and it's not really a show that you'd expect Brock Lesnar to show up at given the way he left.
Right.
So, you know, he doesn't come out in his ring gear. You know, he's kind of just in street clothes.
Yeah.
And he comes out and, you know, kicks down the door, and Paul Heyman's pepper spraying people, and I was surprised. It did bring a little bit of shock value to that moment, but I don't know if I necessarily like it because, you know, what I want to see and what I've been wanting to see for probably the past year now is Braun Strowman to finally get that moment. And I knew it wasn't going to come here because I know that they're going to have an extended run here for Roman Reigns, but I would have liked to at least see Braun go over in the sense that, yeah, maybe he was disqualified or maybe there was something that happened that caused him to lose from the Shield's end. but he did look like he was kind of beaten down. So, to have a character like Braun kind of get beat up like that doesn't really help the cause. But yeah, the triple threat match, we've done this before, and it's kind of an interesting way to book it. My question is, what happens with Brock Lesnar with UFC now? I mean, you have to assume that's probably still going to happen.
I think they announced that he's going to fight Daniel Cormier sometime in January.
Okay.
So I don't know the whole timeline as far as how long he has to be in that drug testing pool or whatever, but it is announced he's going to have a UFC fight in January, no matter what his contract situation is with the WWE. But the biggest thing for me is I really feel like they are doing no favors to Braun Strowman in this program, because he was arguably your top babyface, and you just turn him heel for the sole purpose of just making sure Roman is as over as you could possibly get him, which is a pretty low bar. So you strip Braun of that big babyface run, and then you don't even make him look good in the matches. It goes down in history as one of the only few guys to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase and not win the title, joining company of Baron Corbin and Damian Sandow. So really not a good look from Braun Strowman here. I don't know what the plans are with him long term, but as of right now, I get that they're trying to push Roman. I hate that that it has to be at the expense of Braun Strowman, though.
Yeah, and I think the idea here, Jason, might be the fact that if Braun were to go over, and we haven't seen him with the title yet, if he were to go over and get that Universal title, who's going to take it off him?
That's a good point.
You got to think ahead in that sense. I mean, can you really have somebody then beat him for the title, or is it just like, wow, okay, Braun's got the title now, he's never going to lose it?
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, he's not Bruno Sammartino. He's not going to hold it for 40 years. This still is the WWE. Anything can and will happen. They'll find a way. I mean, listen, Brock is as dominating of a force we've ever seen in professional wrestling.
Have to lose it somewhere.
And he lost it clean, so it's got to happen to everyone. But that's going to take us into our first break of the show. You were listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back.
Now back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I am Jason Marcus, alongside me, Matt Freiler. Unfortunately, Ryan Simpson could not be here today, but that's not stopping us from bringing you all the updated coverage within the world of professional wrestling. It is a very WWE heavy show today because there's been a lot going on over the past couple weeks. We just finished talking about the Universal Championship picture. We failed to mention that it was announced that at that Saudi Arabia event, Roman Reigns will be defending the Universal Championship against both Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar in an absolutely massive triple threat match for the title. So that is just one of the many big matches for this upcoming card. Some other big stuff going on within WWE right now centers around the women. I'm going to start on the SmackDown side of things because we had a big title change at the most recent WWE pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, which saw Becky Lynch defeat Charlotte Flair to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. Of course, Becky Lynch, the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion, had a really poor run with the belt at first, hasn't held it in years, finally regains the championship after a long wait. Matt, what did you think about this match, and more importantly, Becky Lynch finally winning the belt again?
Yeah, Jason, this one's definitely long overdue for Becky Lynch. The last couple weeks on television, the fans have just yearned for this. They've really wanted this moment. And, when there was that moment where Charlotte went over at SummerSlam, a lot of the fans were not happy about it. To try to turn Becky heel wasn't a very natural thing. It didn't feel right. And although they're trying to turn her heel in beating up Charlotte in that moment, she kind of even gets more of an okay
She's
from
become
the
a
crowd.
bigger baby face than
right. Not planned, but yeah, I mean, Becky Lynch, excellent moment, probably the highlight of Hell in the Cell, if you ask me. Even if the match wasn't all that great, just that moment in her coronation and getting to see her win a title, and I just hope she has a great run with it. I loved this angle with, the broken friendship, and it really was. They did, in the end, finally figure out how to use Charlotte the right way. Even though Charlotte normally gets booked as a babyface. Sometimes she's got to play heel as well. I mean, it's a very entrenched in her family lines to play heel. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great way for Becky Lynch to get over with the crowd, and I would probably say it was the most excited I got throughout that card.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think this was definitely a long time coming. I think one thing that I've noticed about this rivalry is it's everything that Bayley and Sasha Banks should have been. I really think they have screwed the pooch on the Bayley-Sasha Banks storyline. I don't even know what they're doing right now. But they really hit the nail on the head with Charlotte and Becky Lynch. So kudos to them. Kudos to Becky Lynch. I think she should have a long run as champion here. I think Charlotte Flair is going to inevitably move on to bigger and better things. Ronda Rousey. Yeah. But with that being said, do the women have any big matches upcoming in either Saudi Arabia? Well, definitely not Saudi Arabia, but maybe in the Australian Super Showdown. I don't think anything has been confirmed, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so for Showdown, probably the big one is Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins versus the Riot Squad, just because I don't see Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins, whatever they're doing with them, lasting at all. I see that eventually falling apart and becoming an angle of itself.
Right.
The Riot Squad has been able to do some great work, and just the fact that they're in the same match as these polarizing WWE figures says a lot for what the Riot Squad's been able to accomplish in just a short amount of time, especially when Ruby Riott was actually injured for a little bit and had to go out and leave her counterpart. So that's another one. Obviously, we're going to get Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, the rematch for the SmackDown Women's title. And then Asuka, who we haven't seen for a while, is going to join forces with Naomi against the iconic duo of Billie Kay and Peyton Royce.
Kind of feels like they know they can't put the women in Saudi Arabia, so they're just putting a lot in Australia to kind of make up for it. Because that Asuka match is really just a throwaway because they have nothing else.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ronda Rousey a little bit. Have you been impressed with her run as Raw Women's Champion?
I would say that it's going to be tough to top her WrestleMania debut.
Yeah.
But I think that was the second best match of her WWE career last night. I was impressed. Alexa did a great job making her look good. Ronda was very energetic in the ring. She seems like she's has that same fire that she does when she's in UFC. But I'm not sure if it was just who was better at putting Ronda over, what it was in Stephanie or Alexa Bliss. I think both did a pretty good job, but I don't know. The whole Alexa thing where she gets scared in these big moments, like, Ronda gets up and kind of puts her hand around her neck and all of a sudden she's cowering in fear. I mean, I get it because, she's booked as being small and she's not very strong from what they book her as, and when she's in these big moments she kind of cowers away and she can't use her heel tactics. But I did kind of enjoy it. I think both Stephanie and Alexa, we've seen examples now of people kind of being intimidated by Ronda, and that's how she's being booked. But yeah, I would say it was probably her second best match. I don't. It's gonna be tough to top though, that WrestleMania debut. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Something that you had said earlier in the show about Braun Strowman was the fear is if you put the title on Braun Strowman, he's got to lose it at some point to somebody, and who is that person? I feel like we have a similar situation here with Ronda Rousey, where you're building her up because obviously she is the most credible fighter, specifically in the women's division, potentially in the entire company at the moment. I don't know how you get the title off her at whatever point they're doing it. I like what she's doing now. She's definitely shown she is made for this. She's definitely blowing expectations out of the water with every match that she has. So I'm excited to see what she does from here. I really don't understand the whole Rousey and the Bella Twins thing. I think I agree with you. I think it's going to lead to maybe a Rousey like Nikki Bella match, because I don't think Rousey has a match confirmed for Evolution, correct? Which is, for those of you who don't know, Evolution is the first ever all-female WWE pay-per-view taking place the last couple, I think it's October 29th. Mm-hmm. I know it's like one of the last days of October, so I don't know if Rousey has a match for that event yet, and if so, I think if she doesn't have a match, it's going to be set up at Australia for whatever match it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really set up, but obviously, whatever it is, it would probably, a lot of people would probably want to see Rousey and Bella, Nikki Bella, that is.
Yeah.
Probably. I would say that has a 90% chance, from my opinion, of us seeing Rousey and Bella just because who else really?
Yeah.
I mean, Evolution, if they're booking it as a big deal, then you got to have your champion have a massive match. And name-wise, I mean, Nikki Bella coming back, it's pretty big. So
Yeah, speaking of which, while you have it up here, the Evolution card, some other big matches have been announced for that card as well. You've got Trish Stratus versus Alexa Bliss. I believe this is the first. Trish Stratus, of course, came back at the Royal Rumble this year, the 30th entrant, huge pop, great showing. But I believe this will be her first one-on-one match in 12 years. Come Evolution against Alexa Bliss. What are your thoughts on this angle going towards this first ever all-female pay-per-view?
I love it. These two are really perfect for each other. Kind of going back to the comment that Alexa Bliss made when Trish Stratus came out during that Elias segment, I believe. And, Elias is kind of just standing there, and, Alexa Bliss comes out and makes a comment about, Trish Stratus being an old lady. And then they do it with Elias again. He calls her an old lady. So they're definitely trying to book it, although Trish Stratus really isn't all that old.
Right.
They're trying to push that on her, and it's going to be great. I would say, Triple H, I'm pretty sure he said before that Alexa Bliss is like mini Trish or something. So,
right. She's getting a lot of comparisons to her.
It's a perfect marriage.
And then another match for Evolution announced was Lita returning as well. Again, I think her first. No, well, she's had a couple one-on-one matches since then, like squash matches. Like I remember she had one against Heath Slater in like Raw 25 or something like that. But nonetheless, she's coming back for a one-on-one match, this time against Mickie James. Really doesn't seem like there's much to this other than they feel like they have to have Lita on the show because she's such a pioneer. What are your thoughts on this whole match?
Yeah, it's almost like if you have Trish, you have to have Lita. I mean, these are two staples of the mid-2000s. The only thing I could think of when I was looking at this match that kind of reminded me of something that did happen is when Mickie James actually won the title off of Lita sometime in the mid-2000s, and this will be their first match since then. So there is a little bit of a backstory to it. Obviously, these two are veterans, and when you talk women's wrestling, they're two that automatically come to mind. So it's a good one, and Mickie James really hasn't had much lately besides following Alexa around, so it's kind of nice to see her get her a nice singles match.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take our quick second break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about the tag titles. You are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back.
Now back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm Jason Marcus. Alongside me is Matt Freiler. We have a lot to talk about within the world of professional wrestling, specifically the WWE. One of the biggest stories over the past couple weeks has been the return of some legendary superstars, including one Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Triple H. It's like the Attitude all over again, Matt. What has been your reaction to seeing such iconic superstars back on Raw?
Well, I have to give a shout out to Ryan Simpson for this one because, he sat here last semester when we were talking about WrestleMania, and, we're all talking about, this has got to be it. This has got to be the last one. And it's not.
Nope.
And they're just going to keep bringing him back, and this isn't the last time either. This isn't going to be it. I guarantee you, even after this Undertaker Triple H match, there's going to be then something involving HBK.
I agree.
And now that Kane's in the picture as well, shout out to the mayor of, I forget the name of the town.
Knoxville.
Yeah. Is it Knox? It's Knox County. It can't be
It is
Knoxville.
just Knox County.
Knoxville's pretty big, but like Knox County or something, yeah. So I would say, the Undertaker will wrestle these big matches as long as there's a paycheck for him.
Right.
And hey, I'm excited to see it. I think that he cut a hell of a promo.
Yeah.
Last night or Monday night, excuse me. And he's in rare form with those promos, and Triple H calling him out, calling him old, and Undertaker playing the corporate line. This is kind of interesting. It's obviously more interesting in the promo sense than it will be in the actual ring. But, boy, it'd be interesting to see if HBK will, in fact, come back at some point down the road.
I think he will. I have definitely been, I hate to say it, Matt, but I've the luster is kind of worn off a little bit. I love The Undertaker, love Triple H, Kane, Shawn Michaels, love all those guys, but it really is starting to feel like a little bit of a retirement home, kind of like too much of a nostalgia trip. Like, there is such thing as too much of a good thing. And I think, I hate to say it, but I feel like the more The Undertaker's on television, the more his, like, mystique and legacy is kind of just diminishing a little bit. With that being said, I am excited for their match in Australia between The Undertaker and Triple H. What do you think? Are you excited for this match?
I don't know if I'm exactly excited for the in-ring portion of the match as much as I am just for the nostalgia factor and, okay, yeah, this might be the last time of these two going one-on-one in a singles match. But I do like the promo that Shawn Michaels cut when he came back on that episode of Raw, to kind of address who he thought was going to win, pick Triple H, whatever. But the kind of thing that he said is kind of what you just reiterated. Shawn Michaels retired and did not return out of a kind of respect for himself and his character. Right. And, when HBK does come back, it's going to be that much bigger because for the past 2 decades, we haven't really seen much of him. So I would say, am I excited for the actual match? No, because it'll be short. But I'm excited to see everything around it. I think it'll be shorter. Maybe not short like a squash.
Yeah, I think, it is hard to see Undertaker going 20 minutes,
Right.
But
I would say under 10.
Definitely longer than his John Cena match at WrestleMania,
for sure.
right?
Not a squash.
Yeah.
There's really no way to make this a squash.
I don't think Triple H has the ego to do that.
No, you can't really make this a squash.
You're asking too much of him just to put people over.
Right. Yeah, John Cena was a different situation. Undertaker did not have the retirement that he wanted against Roman Reigns. So, you bring him back and you have him squash John Cena. And I think that HBK kind of hit the nail right on the head, and I kind of agree with you that the more matches that The Undertaker does kind of lose the luster, because then what is nostalgia if he's just back anyway? And if they're going to do this with Kane especially, because it's like, wow, those two, that was incredible growing up to see Undertaker and Kane. And that's not really something that you want to see overused because that had such a special place in history.
I agree. Unfortunately, and not really unfortunately because I think it's a good thing, I think they're heading the direction of, I don't know what's going to happen at Australia, but I would assume that come Saudi Arabia, all 4 of those guys are involved in a match, most likely a tag team match between the Brothers of Destruction versus DX. If that is the case, Matt, are you excited for that match?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't help but be excited if Shawn Michaels is going to return. He said it himself. Everybody in that locker room, can I get a match with Shawn Michaels? Dream match. Most notably, AJ Styles is the one that the WWE Universe pushed for so hard that it actually became a rumor when it had no ground from creative themselves. They never said a word, and WWE Universe just created that themselves. Just because it would be so amazing. So, yes, while we have seen Triple H in these big matches at big pay-per-views, and we've seen The Undertaker as well recently, we have not seen Shawn Michaels.
Nope.
And everybody has wanted to. And, oh boy, it's almost like if they were to announce that Stone Cold or The Rock was coming back in the ring.
Right.
And it's almost just that big, and I would venture to say it is on that level. We've seen Stone Cold back for, the 50th anniversary, or 25th, anniversary of Raw. We've heard Rock get rumored that he might be back soon. Who knows what goes on with that. But I think Shawn Michaels ranks right up there as far as guys who've been able to stay away long enough to where when they do come back, it's going to shut the entire world down.
Yeah, it's been 8 years, if not more, since he's had a match. So if he does in fact have a match in Saudi Arabia, I do hope it's his last one. But if it is, what a way to go out.
Mm-hmm.
This is as big as it gets, I think.
Right, and it's not just like when you have HBK cut a promo like he did on Raw, it's not like you can just book him for the show and then we don't have any answers. Like with Undertaker, it was kind of just like, oh, he's coming back. With Shawn Michaels, you have to have a story around how, why. He said he would never. So it's going to be entertaining television because there's going to be this entire build up to it. Probably Undertaker taking down Triple H, in my opinion, will probably happen. That would be the only angle that you can really have HBK come back, because then he was wrong.
Right.
If he was right, then what does he got to prove?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think you probably see Undertaker in a decently short match, take down Triple H at Super Showdown, and then we'll start to see weekly what goes on, and Undertaker getting Shawn Michaels really fired up to the point of where he just breaks and has to come back.
I would love to know when the last time, if ever, a sitting politician was involved in a professional wrestling event. Maybe Jesse Ventura, if he was governor, if he ever did anything. But should be interesting to see the mayor of Knox County get involved in most likely Saudi Arabia.
Kane's just been on call. It's like, hey, just call up Kane if you need him. And it's like this happened when Braun and Roman had their rivalry, and Kane just came out of nowhere and choke slammed Roman. And remember that angle? It just feels like Kane just gets, and then the Daniel Bryan thing trying to revive the Team Hell No. So it's like he just is on call, and he's all these different jobs, and man, I love Kane, but does he really fit here?
No.
We'll see.
You know what? This begs the question, though. What is the state of Knox County that they can afford to just lose their mayor to travel across the world for, a handful of dates here?
Well, the fact that their town is named after a county.
That's true.
Are they in Knox County?
The Knox is the county.
I don't understand.
We're in Center County.
Right, but you don't have a mayor of a county. You have a mayor of a town. So, I don't understand. Maybe Knox County. I don't want to say it's a popularity contest. I mean, we've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger get elected governor of California before. But
I definitely think that he's well known helped him.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's a good
But
politician.
will it help him in a tornado tag team match in Saudi Arabia?
Everything
Guess we'll find
becomes a
out.
wrestling promo.
Yeah, right. Speaking of tag teams, we got a lot of movement going on with these tag team titles on both shows. Let's start with the Raw Tag Team Champions, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. They've been a really good tag team since they put together at the start of the Superstar Shakeup. They defended their titles against Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose at Hell in a Cell. Of course, since we last we're talking to you guys, the Shield has reunited. Matt, what has been your reaction to the reunion of the Shield and their program since reuniting?
Well, I mean, we've had this Dolph Ziggler set. That's where this kind of comes from. The Ziggler-Rollins feud to begin with. Dean Ambrose, debuting a couple weeks ago, coming back from his injury, and when we learned that he had complications, Ambrose coming out saying he almost died from infection.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he came out and said that he had a very serious complication after that surgery, and that he almost died, literally almost died from infection.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's able to get back in there, and he was gone, obviously, for a very long time. But yeah, I mean, obviously, WWE pushing Roman, trying to find ways to get Roman to be the guy. Everybody loves Seth. Everybody loves Dean. Surround him by them again. It's just another way to try to get Roman over.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry to interrupt you. We did get an update from Mr. Ryan Simpson that apparently Jesse Ventura, as governor, was a special referee for a match at some pay-per-view we don't know of. But it has happened before, but it'll happen most likely again in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the only reason the Shield is reunited, well, two reasons. One, Roman Reigns was never more popular than he was when he was in the Shield, so that had to happen. But two, they tried it before, and then Roman got hurt, and then Dean got hurt, and that was just a mess. So this was a long time coming. I'm glad that it's happening now. The only thing I'm confused about this is they're battling over both the tag team titles and the Intercontinental Championship, and that just seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, this is the whole top of the card
right
now on Weekly Raw, and it's I love Dolph Ziggler, and when they were doing this stupid stuff with him coming out to all these other entrances, it was just getting you're killing his character. So now he gets brought to Raw, and boy, Dolph Ziggler sells, I would argue, better than almost anybody. I mean, I know AJ Styles is really good at selling as well, but boy, when Dolph Ziggler gets in there, he will make these superstars look elite. I mean, he just sells with the best of them in WWE history. So I love that. I didn't really understand the McIntyre-Ziggler pairing at first.
Yeah.
And I really don't get the Braun thing. I mean, I guess it's just put three heels together.
Right.
But I do understand now that they've done it enough, the McIntyre-Ziggler pairing. It's starting to make sense. And I would love to see, either the Universal title on Roman and then the tag titles on Dean and Seth, with Seth also having the IC, or the other way around, which is less likely to happen, with Braun having the Universal title eventually down the road at Survivor Series.
Right.
Ziggler and McIntyre having the tags, with Ziggler also having the IC to have them with every belt on Raw.
Right.
I think we have yet to see that, and that's something that I want to see. Just see a faction that has the entire title belts on them and dominate, and see how that works the crowd-wise.
To me, it makes more sense if you're going to do that angle to put it on the heel team to make them look stronger, make the baby faces more sympathetic as the comeback.
Right.
I feel like if you put them on the Shield, there's not much of a story there, because if they're the good guys and the best guys, then it's like, all right, well, what are we fighting for? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but Raw tag titles situation is doing really well. SmackDown tag team titles, not so much. We saw the New Day win the SmackDown tag titles at SummerSlam from the Bludgeon Brothers. I believe Eric Rowan has gotten hurt.
Yeah.
So they are the Bludgeon Brothers for the time being are not together. I just feel like that tag team cannot catch a break throughout their entire career. I feel like just every time they start to gain momentum, something happens, and it just stalls them right in their track.
Yeah, and one of two things have to happen in this Bludgeon Brothers scenario. Either Luke Harper's got to get a singles push quick,
yes,
and get him to the top of the card, because he was towards the top of the card with this Bludgeon Brothers thing, or they need to figure something out with Bray Wyatt, because he's got to come back as well.
True.
And I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about Matt Hardy retiring, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt is going to need something big, not maybe a complete repackage, but he did say on his Twitter he's going to go away for a while. This Matt Hardy thing with the Deleters of Worlds, and Matt saying his back and his pelvis were starting to fuse together, and he didn't know much of a future for him. They didn't really get much time together, and that was kind of, I think, planned to be a long-term thing.
Right.
And Matt Hardy just realized he couldn't do it.
Right.
So now what for Bray Wyatt? And that's kind of what it's been for the past year. Now what for Bray Wyatt? Ever since WrestleMania 33 happened and he had that picture with Randy Orton at the top of the card, it's been now what since then? There has not been anything.
Well, what do you think they should do? And since we're talking about it, might as well just go into the whole. Let's just talk about Matt Hardy and his retirement, since we're talking about it now. But I don't know. I think part of me feels like the most beneficial thing is just pair him back up with the Wyatt family. That's what, similar to what they were doing with Roman. That's when he was the most over. It's when he was the most popular. I think it's his best situation. I don't know. What do you think?
I was thinking about this, and this might seem a little wild, but Sanity.
Interesting.
I think that he kind of fits right in.
Yep.
And while it is peculiar and strange, it might work. And if Sanity's going to get this push that they're projected to, which they are eventually going to,
yeah, of course,
then Bray Wyatt could be the guy to lead them.
I could see that. My only flaw with that is I feel like Eric Young is already their leader, and I would personally rather see the two factions go against each other than them try to be into one big faction. I think that makes more sense if you have Bray Wyatt come back to SmackDown when Rowan and Harper are healthy, and then it's those three versus the three Insanity, and then maybe we can get someone to finally be Sister Abigail and take on Nikki Cross.
Right. That's another. I don't know though with Eric Rowan. I mean, from what he needs surgery. I don't think we're gonna see Eric Rowan for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, a torn bicep.
Yeah.
So Harper's just sitting around. When you say Wyatt family, you can really only bring those two back, because right now Braun is just out of the picture. Right. He's not going to be involved in that storyline as much as we might like him to, because it might be interesting to maybe have Braun Strowman then lead the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No. He's outgrown it.
Yeah, he doesn't need it. So it's almost like, what do you do with just Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper? I mean, you kind of need something else. So I'm very interested to see. I thought when they did the whole reincarnation thing that they, were going to completely repackage Bray Wyatt. They didn't. Maybe now it's time.
Yeah, maybe now, but that's a good note to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the WWE title pictures as well as everything else going on within this crazy world of professional wrestling. So you are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling podcast, and we will be right back.
Now back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm Jason Marcus, alongside me, Matt Freiler. A lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. We are talking about Hell in a Cell, Crowne Jewell, Super Showdown, What else? Evolution.
Yeah, a lot of new pay-per-views in
Lot of
different
new-
countries and different things to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. But one of the biggest news that has come out in recent weeks, and we touched on it a little bit before the break, but I think we need to give it the time that it deserves. It was announced this week that legendary professional wrestler Matt Hardy has announced his in-ring retirement. Of course, Hardy started his career in the mid-'90s with his brother Jeff, rose to become arguably the most iconic tag team in WWE history. Over a 25-year-long career, called it quits this week. Matt, I just want to get your thoughts on this big announcement.
Well, it's kind of heartbreaking. Matt Hardy has been one of my favorites since I was, in the Attitude Era following as a young kid. And 25 years in this business, and not just WWE. Multi-promotional, elite tag team. They did it everywhere. They did it in Ring of Honor. They did it in TNA. They did it across the country. Or across the world, excuse me. Matt Hardy is just such a figure in professional wrestling. And when he was at his lowest, and if none of you know what I'm talking about, watch the 24 that WWE Network put out, and you'll know the low points that Matt Hardy hit in his career, similar to his brother Jeff. And the way he was able to come back at WrestleMania 33 and make that debut, and now here we are a year and a half later, and we figure out that he just didn't have enough left.
Yeah.
So the way that Woken Matt Hardy was able to capture the internet's attention and enough to give Matt creative control of his own character in WWE is not something that you really ever see.
No.
To have creative control over your own character in WWE, you got to be somebody. And Matt took the world by storm with that character. And then you heard over the past couple of months, he's got 2 kids now, one just recently. His pelvis and his back fusing together.
Yeah, nasty stuff.
You could see he wasn't as agile in the ring, and that when some things would happen, like when they had that 30-minute Iron Man match, I forget which pay-per-view it was. It actually might have been Hell in a Cell last year with the bar.
Yeah.
And he flies across the ring and collides with Jeff on that move and completely tears like the right side of his eyebrow off. There are things for both Matt and Jeff where they've really been banged up since they've come back. Jeff tore his rotator cuff. Now he's got numbness in his body. So These two are just warriors. And my beef with it is that Matt needs a send-off. He's been doing this for like the past month on his own social media, kind of announcing his retirement, and WWE hasn't addressed it at all. And I don't know how they're going to, but they need to. And this needs to be a respectable and proper send-off if this is going to happen. And is he going to have a backstage role? We'll see. But now it's like he retires, and now you hear the news that he's down in North Carolina, and these floods are hitting his house, and the Hardy compound's basement is flooded, and he's on Instagram sweeping all this water. It's tough sledding right now for the Hardys, and you know Matt doesn't want to go, but he doesn't have a choice, and it's heartbreaking. But Matt Hardy definitely one of the best to ever do it.
Absolutely, guaranteed Hall of Famer. I don't even think that's a discussion. It is unfortunate that he didn't get that big send off, but I feel like you see that a lot. Well, I guess at least with Edge and Paige, and for the time being Daniel Bryan, at least they got that in-ring segment where they got to talk about it. So I don't know, maybe that's coming. Maybe they're waiting for Jeff's stuff to clear up, and maybe they do something joint together.
I think Jeff's gonna go away for a bit.
I think Jeff needs to stop doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good transition for our next topic, which is there were 2 Hell in a Cell matches at, obviously, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. We talked about the one earlier between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. The other one kicked off the show, and it was between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, and it was brutal. Randy Orton is probably a top 5 heel all time, in my opinion. The stuff that he's doing is next level, even for Randy. It is really uncomfortable to watch.
Sick, yeah.
For those of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, Jeff Hardy has his ears gauged, which means that his earlobes have a big hole in them and they're kind of floppy. Randy Orton decided that was a good place to put a screwdriver.
Yeah, and we've seen it teased.
Yeah.
In other matches that the two have had, but this was a whole nother level.
It was gross.
Sick.
I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see it because we're obviously not really in the PG era anymore. We're transitioning out of that. But boy, that was sick.
Yeah, it was really uncomfortable to watch. I thought the match itself was good. But But again, going back to some of these spots Jeff is doing, the finishing spot for this is something we hadn't seen before. It was innovative. It was cool. Jeff is dangling from the top of the cell, from inside the cell, and just essentially lets go and falls through a table. And Orton picks up the win here. And it just begs the question, if you had mentioned Jeff is already saying he's got body numbness, why is he continuing to do this stuff? At some point, his health has got to come before everything, right? Like, you got to think at some point he's got to stop.
Well, the first thing that popped in my head is that it's kind of ironic to see Mick Foley here at Hell in a Cell as well, because that's all it reminded me of. A guy who literally put his body on the line for WWE, and look what happened to him. Yeah. I mean, Mick Foley was, just totally sacrificed everything that he had for this business, and now it's Jeff Hardy's turn, and that's what he's doing. The ironic part of it is Jeff Hardy does things that when you see it, you're just like, wow, Jeff did it again. If any other superstar was to do these spots that Jeff does, we would be like, that was a mistake. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen on purpose. But when it's Jeff doing it, you're like, yeah, he agreed to it.
Right.
You're like, he's out of his mind, because you see that with any other superstar, and you're like, no way, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
With Jeff, we're just so used to it that we're like, yep, he agreed to do something like this again.
I think it also is very similar to his well-documented drug issues. It's that at some point, you become the enabler, like creative-wise, when you're like, hey, Jeff, can you do this dangerous spot that I know you're going to accept, even though everybody knows it is not beneficial for you to be doing this stuff? Like, they got to stop. If it really is Jeff saying, I want to do this stuff, that's one thing. But if they're coming to Jeff and being like, hey, we got this crazy spot for you, they need to stop it. His reputation's already solidified as this high-risk taker. You don't need to prove it anymore. Like, Mick Foley does not need to jump off a cage anymore to be considered a hardcore legend. It's done. Right. It's over with. Move on. I think listen, I don't want to see Jeff go. I didn't want to see Matt go. But they got to go sometime soon, and for no other reason than they got a whole life ahead of them, and it's too risky to be putting their bodies on the line at this age. At 43 years old, it's too much.
Yeah, they're both married. They both have kids, and it's tough to watch sometimes. And for the amount that Jeff Hardy has put on the line for this business, like you said, there's nothing left to prove. But you do wonder if there's that personal dilemma with Jeff Hardy, that this is all he's got. Right. And it's all he's ever had. And this business has saved him, from himself. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it countless times where Jeff Hardy in the wrestling ring is the best place that he can be for his own personal health. Right. When he's taken time off, he's spiraled out of control. That's true. And I completely trust now that he's mature enough as a person and respectful enough to himself. But, it's tough sometimes for him to have that personal dilemma and say, can I really do this as easy as my brother can? Because we know Matt can. Right. We know that Matt is comfortable with his family, and we've already seen him kind of announcing his own retirement, that he's kind of accepted the fact that he can't do this anymore. It's tough. I don't know if Jeff's going to be able to accept that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I don't know what their plan is for Jeff long term. I think he'll probably take a break after this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's got a match announced for any of the upcoming international shows.
I think he'll take some time off. I don't know. I mean, what do you do? Do you continue the feud with Orton?
Randy?
And if you do, then it's like, what else is there? What you did at Hell in a Cell was so sick. Yeah. Are you gonna up that and make it even worse?
At the same time, Jeff? But at the same time, if this is the end of Jeff's career as well, it does kind of feel like a little bit of a low note to go out on.
And why are we having the two guys who were in the United States title picture have a bigger match at a major pay-per-view than the U.S. The title even get defended?
Well, I mean, Shinsuke...
The U.S. title's a joke, and I'll say it live. It's been a joke for a long time.
I think the U.S. title's a joke. I said it months ago, and I'll say it again. Shinsuke's done. Like, his main roster is a flop.
Are you kidding me? Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton are the opener to Hell in a Cell, and they're the guys that were surrounded by you in the feud, and there's no belt being defended.
Nope.
That just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really bad.
Since Jinder had it, then Shinsuke had it. I mean, what are we doing with this belt?
Yeah, it's not good. I don't know how they can Shinsuke is not even booked for any of these upcoming matches so far. He's literally got the belt and nothing. They're literally giving creative ideas.
Giving him Rusev and even last night on SmackDown. Shinsuke beats Rusev because now Aiden English and Rusev are broken up.
Right.
And there's a bigger storyline than Shinsuke itself. All these storylines around him are bigger than the actual belt being defended.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good look for Shinsuke. But as far as where Jeff and Randy go from here, we kind of already talked about Jeff probably taking some time off. As far as Randy Orton goes, maybe we'll disagree on this, but I think he's due for another big WWE title picture push.
As a massive heel.
Yes,
bring it on. You know what? I would have liked to see that when they gave him this push, pre-WrestleMania 33 against Bray, and he's obviously the face in that situation. Oh, man.
That was just bad. Well, Randy Orton as a babyface is awful.
Right, and he really can do some things as a heel.
Yeah.
And, he's almost like a natural heel to begin with as just a
Well,
person.
Exactly.
I mean, the things he'll say about independent wrestling.
Yeah.
For mainstream fans, they probably don't understand. But for guys like us who will watch the indies, he just is constantly disrespectful to the indies. And he knows it because he's that bad boy kind of corporate guy. Right. But here's the thing about Randy Orton that just came out recently. Yeah. The story about how writers would come in and, he'd be pulling down his pants and stuff like that. Have you heard this?
I did not.
Okay, so a story came out from an old, a former writer for WWE Creative who now has a podcast. Basically went on the record in an interview saying you'd come in as a writer and you were new and you'd want to talk to Randy Orton. And this was maybe mid-2000s. Mm-hmm. You'd come in, you'd want to talk to Randy Orton and, he'd shake your hand after doing some things,
Right.
So I don't want to get into the whole report, but basically, yes, he's exposing himself to writers and others. And the story goes the one time Steph was about to walk in the room and Randy Orton freaked out and was like, wow, I almost lost my job. Yeah. So now this got reported and it was he said, she said kind of thing. But can you see Randy Orton doing that? Absolutely.
100%.
He's just a natural heel.
Just...
So you hear that and you're like, yep, now they're playing off these things that actually happen in real life. And boy, he really is a good heel.
Yeah. And what does that get you? I'll tell you what it gets you. A 13-time world champion is where it gets you.
Yeah, you're right. You're completely right.
Speaking of world champion, we don't have a lot of time left, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the WWE Championship picture between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. I feel like it's been super underwhelming. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but even the Hell in a Cell finish was just bogus to me.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Well, AJ taps, nobody sees it. Again, a kind of an unconventional finish, not clean. Because it's, AJ tapped. Man. I would say that this wasn't really going to work from the way they booked it from the start. And now it's kind of just spiraling out of control. But are we not... I want to ask you this. Is Samoa Joe not winning this belt because they are trying to keep AJ Styles for a very long time to solidify him? He's the cover athlete.
Yes.
To WrestleMania, the next Mania.
Yeah.
Is that why?
Yep.
Okay, because I feel like Samoa Joe's kind of done enough to earn this title.
Oh, I 100% agree.
And they're just not going to give it to him.
I think it's a bigger detriment to Joe than it is. If AJ loses the title, AJ continues to be a big star, credible star that's always in the title picture. If Joe does not win the WWE Championship in this program, where's Joe go?
It scares me because this happened with Shinsuke.
Exactly.
We saw this happen. We literally saw the exact same thing happen with Shinsuke.
Yeah.
He lost his matches for the title. Everybody thought he was going to get it eventually. He lost his matches, and now he's completely irrelevant.
Yep.
I do not want to see that happen to Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe is Shinsuke is too, but Samoa Joe is just on another level good.
And now you're going to get the winner of Daniel Bryan in The Miz at Super Showdown faces the WWE champion. So you said that yourself. That's going to happen eventually.
Right.
We knew that. Samoa Joe's not going to be part of that.
No.
So what's he going to do? Go for the U.S. title? What can you realistically do now? Samoa Joe's done enough to earn this belt, and they're just not going to give it to him.
I'll say it now, though. I think if Joe took the U.S. title from Shinsuke and made that belt relevant, that's not the worst thing in the world.
No, you're right. Maybe that is a way. But now that obviously Miz and Daniel Bryan are slowly entering the WWE title picture, that's going to be the picture leading up to Survivor Series. Samoa Joe doesn't really fit in that. Boy, we'll have to see what's next. I did want to mention, by the way, because I have to ask you this. Oh, boy. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode, two of my favorite mid-card guys, like, ever.
It's like a
writer. I love it.
It's like a writer was listening to Marking Out. He's like, I need to make Matt Freiler happy. What can I do?
I mean, I've sat here on this show, and I've talked about how hype I was about Bobby Roode, and then, you know, he did the U.S. title thing, had a little bit of rivalry with Ziggler, and then, you know, you got, like, Mojo Rawley or something like that. These two needed each other, and they put them together, and I can't wait for them to feud because you know it's coming. Because right now Gable's like so happy to be back, and he's like freaking out that Bobby Roode, and they're playing Bobby's music, and he's like Bobby's understudy. Yeah. Chad Gable's gonna turn on Bobby Roode, and I can't wait to see that. I just had to give that a little plug.
I love
these
it.
Two guys, Chad Gable in the ring. Oh boy, he's something to watch. He really is. That guy is. You know, I'll sit up and say it right here. He's top 5 in ring right now in WWE.
Really?
In ring, Chad Gable, top 5.
Really?
Yes, he's right up there with. I mean, okay, he's not right up there, but his moveset, Styles, Ziggler, there's a Daniel Bryan.
Are we counting NXT? Because I think they give you some competition there.
You're right. I'll say main roster.
Yeah.
Just his style. Chad Gable in the ring blows me away. Honestly.
I agree. He's great, and he's super underused. I'm glad he's with Bobby Roode, and they're giving him something.
It's something that wouldn't be teaming him back up with Jason Jordan.
Right.
That would be disastrous.
I think that's going to happen, though. But
no.
Only a couple minutes left, a little bit here, real quickly. Thoughts on Daniel Bryan Miz program with Nikki Bella and Brie and Maurice as well.
Well, this is twice now, right? That
Yeah.
they've lost. You know, Bryan lost to the Miz at SummerSlam, and now this botched finish for the mixed couples match that they did. Yeah, you have to think that Daniel Bryan's gonna be the guy to win then at Super Showdown, and that he's gonna go on to face, you know, AJ Styles, which is kind of the dream match. But the Miz is excellent right now. I mean, he's just so good at what he does, and I do love this feud, and I love the way they've been booking it. It's really perfect right now.
Yep. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Marking Out. You can catch us again next week, same time, Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. We haven't been able to talk about All In yet, and it definitely deserves it, so hopefully we can find a time in the coming weeks when it's slower in the WWE to talk about that. But thank you guys so much for listening. We will be again back here next week. So take care, everyone, and bye-bye.